Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unbiased America Live, number 48. Our decals aren't working, so I'll remind you who we are. We have Matt Palumbo over here, who is drinking an IPA, and he also looks like he's in his late teens now. So that's actually an improvement on being 13. And myself, Will,
Next.
You're going to have the beard come out, huh?
I'm going to go for like a good 18 years old kind of look.
And myself, Will Riccadella from Unbiased America. Grant seems to have just joined us. Looks very professional.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Did you just come out of the back alley?
Yeah, I was like strangling some cats.
You were? Oh, okay. Just daily life?
Yeah, pretty much.
We have good news. Matt and I graduated from college. I have my degree in economics and political science, and Matt got his in finance with a minor in economics, right,
Finance
Matt?
and economics, yep.
Finance and economics. And Grant works at a manufacturing plant, and if Trump isn't elected, his job will be outsourced somewhere cheaper. So he's a big time Trump bot. He loves them. He also has a soft spot for Bernie Sanders. You can see all of that stuff on unbiasedamerica.com. Kevin's not here. He's late. Apparently he has a son, and he needs to do things for him, which is ridiculous. But you know, I haven't really been following the news that much because I've been busy this week. But I wanted to talk about the Libertarian Party. Let's talk about the Libertarian candidates here. Gary Johnson's coming off as a real leftist to me, and he seems like just like another establishment GOP type of guy. I'm lost on where he's really a libertarian, unless a lot of the things I'm hearing aren't true. But I did watch the debate, and he did sound kind of leftist to me. McAfee is crazy. I don't know.
I think McAfee is the only real libertarian, though. I mean, look at his record. He married a prostitute. Right.
Yep.
He did drugs on the job.
Yep.
He was a capitalist.
He lied,
I mean,
said that he could unlock the phone.
That.
He lied and said he could unlock the iPhone. The guy is
killed someone.
He's an honest snake oil salesman, if those exist. And then you have Austin Peterson, who is a brilliant marketer, but just perhaps should maybe get to know, conservatism and the Constitution a bit more if you're going to claim you're a constitutionalist. I think sometimes he just repeats platitudes. What do you think? Who do you like out of the Libertarian bunch, Grant?
I mean,
none of them. Is that a good enough answer?
I mean, if I had to vote for one, it'd still be Austin Peterson. But
I agree with you, though. I watched the debate. I wouldn't say, I don't know if I would call Gary Johnson a leftist. Maybe more of a populist libertarian. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Definitely more. Definitely better than Peterson at this point, in my opinion. Not even from a standpoint of actually a chance of doing anything, but even just from a standpoint of principle. McAfee, yeah, like you said, he's insane. The real trouble that I think is really just the Libertarian Party has a very special opportunity to gain a lot of momentum. Not win the presidential election, but gain a lot of momentum, I think. If things continue as currently are playing, let's put it that way, the Libertarian moment, it does have an opportunity to shine. But like you said, a lot of the crew, like you said earlier before we got on, a lot of the people who were leaving Cruz and looking at Peterson just ditched him right away when he said, when he made his comments during the debate, which I didn't understand because early in the race, Peterson, in one of the first debates, Gary Johnson said, a little in a leftist manner, a Nazi or a Jew should be able to force a Nazi to bake a cake, whatever the idiom was that they were talking about. And Gary Johnson was like, no, like being like basically pro-discrimination law in a way, which whatever. I don't think it's that big a deal. If you want to nitpick about it, I guess so. But for Peterson to then come back and make the comments that he did on the Obergefell decision and on Roe v. Wade is antithetical. How can you say one and then all of a sudden switch to the other? Right?
He pretty much basically said that I support judicial activism if it's libertarian. That I support a libertarian activist court that will impose on the states and the people this libertarian philosophy.
And mind you, last time, the one time we had him on Unbiased America Live, he said blatantly if he was in the in the head office, and he was a sort of an influence in the U.S. government, he would want to do it within the means of the Constitution. And I asked him bluntly, would you executive order your way to libertarian utopia? And he said no. And now his comments on just judiciary activism is sort of antithetical to that. That's a big flip. That's not like Hillary Clinton said, "Oh, my views changed on gay marriage." That's going from like pro-constitution to judicial activism, which is kind of what the hole we've got in now.
Right. In defense of Peterson, executive order. You know, he was supporting the judiciary, an activist judiciary, as opposed to an activist or a president that's expanding the powers of the office.
But how is that really different at the end of the day?
It's a good. I mean, really, it's.
Will some old guy just join our chat?
Yeah, I see that.
Well,
we have an old.
How did we get John McAfee on the show?
What the fuck? You comparing me to John McAfee?
Not you.
Oh, okay. What?
I think he's talking about the degenerate there with the backwards hat and the beard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So here's Kevin Ryan. We were just talking about the Libertarian Party candidates, and if conservatives who are really not represented at all in this election. The Libertarians have the Libertarian Party candidate. Republican Party has the progressive populist candidate. The left has a couple of kooks, and conservatives are really left out in the cold. And you know, conservatives that were willing to go to Austin Peterson, but conservatives are really, you know, they're kind of, they don't trust libertarians. You know what I mean? And then when Austin Peterson, we were talking about what he did on that one, he was on a conservative talk show, and he just blew it. And PJ Media reported it, and this went all over conservative websites, and they just kind of were apprehensive about libertarians to begin with. They hear this, and they're kind of like, "Up, I'm all done." And I saw that in his presidential group too, that a lot of them were just kind of like, "Is this guy serious?" And I think they took off. And I think they had a hard time dealing with a lot of the libertarian members of the group. But you know, what's left for conservatives? I mean, we haven't had a conservative party since since Reagan left office, and then we had a brief time in the 90s with the contract with America. But really, it's been more of a progressive party. What are conservatives to do? You know, should we push Donald Trump further to the right? Do we vote? You know, go after Austin Peterson and try to change his viewpoints on a right to live? I mean, where do we go, Kevin?
I first of all, I think you're buying into a media narrative that's not quite true. I think Donald Trump got elected because there were 18 candidates, and he ended up getting the most support simply because of name recognition at first, and you know, towards the end, it was impossible for anyone else to catch up. But there were a lot of conservatives in that group. I mean, there were some good candidates that that made it towards the end there. So I don't think conservatism's dead. I just think it was a horrible year in terms of the amount of candidates they had, and we ended up getting this guy who's definitely not conservative.
I don't think conservatism's dead.
It wasn't much better in 2012, 08, 04, or 2000. So.
Right. I mean, but conservatives have been down for a long time. I'm not saying it's dead. It's just that we have, this was our year to get a conservative candidate with the anti-establishment attitude. We didn't get one. Maddie, I mean, I would consider you a libertarian conservative. I mean, do you feel represented? I mean, can you think of being represented in the last 20 years? I know you're 14, but can you think back 7 years before you were born?
No, I can't actually. So.
I mean, but seriously, where's our representation, In some think tank somewhere. Yeah, right? I mean, where is it? At the Cato and Heritage? I mean, I don't know. It just seems just the Republican Party has just shifted left, and that's
By the
really,
way,
I think...
while you guys were on the topic of the Libertarian candidates, Johnson was on Joe Rogan, and I think he said he sided with Bernie Sanders in something like 70% of issues on the I Side With survey. And, I mean, they can't all be drugs and butt stuff. So, I don't know. What is it?
I don't know. Who knows? But let's look at the Democrat side. You have Bernie Sanders seems to be winning a ton of primaries here. But a couple of points matter, and that's that Bernie Sanders was never a Democrat. He was always an independent. Now he jumps into the Democrat Party. Wonders why the Democrats won't accept him, and he just can't win the nomination. I mean, shouldn't the parties have some way to make sure that these candidates adhere to the party platform. What do you think, Grant? Do you think that's fair? I don't think Grant can hear me. Look at him over there.
I would actually say no, because I mean I don't think I don't know. There's always going to be a candidate who deviates in 1 or 2 points, is there not?
Mm-hmm. But I don't know if Bernie deviates from 1 or 2 points. I mean, he's even a radical shift from a lot of the Democrats. So I mean, Kevin? Do you think there should be a way for these parties to maintain some sort of party platform, some sort of this way that they can permeate the civil society and people will understand exactly what the party stands for, and that the civil society therefore permeates government? What do you think?
Well, that's the way it used to work when the parties basically elected their own candidates a long time ago, and made sure that the candidate who was elected made sure that they were, following the platform and so forth. And now they leave it up to the populace. And in the age of free Trump media and stuff, you're going to end up, a famous dog is going to get elected or become the nominee someday if he's famous enough. I mean, I think what the Democrats did, and maybe I'm not answering you adequately, or maybe I didn't understand your question, but I think what the Democrats did with this whole having the superdelegates that can choose whatever they want, I think that was one way that they reacted towards potential kooks like Bernie coming out there, and they could now there's now a whole nother 500 or 1,000 superdelegates who can tip the balance one way or the other. And if that was the case right now in the Republican Party, I don't know if we'd necessarily have Trump at the top.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. And it's funny because Trump won 42% of the primary vote, which means that there's 58% that actually opposed Trump. It was just divided between, like you said, all those people at the beginning, the 16 other candidates that we had at the beginning. So, but again, Trump did win a lot of people that traditionally weren't in the Republican Party. He did win independents. He did win over Democrats. But I mean, what do you think, Maddie? Do you think that would translate into general? What do you think his chances are of winning? These these Democrat voters in the Rust Belt, these union voters. It seems that big labor would like a guy like Trump.
Like it was Sanders versus Trump, you mean? Sorry.
No, just Trump. Just Trump in a general election versus either.
I mean, what I use is, just like the polls so far, and then there's John Stossel actually has a really cool site called electionbettingodds.com or .org, it's one of the two, but he's looking at all the betting that's going on the election, and they can calculate an implied probability of victory for each candidate. So right now there's something like a 75% chance Hillary will win and a 25% chance Trump will win. And then Nate Silver at 538 actually did an analysis too recently and said it's about a 25% chance Trump will win. So I mean, obviously that's as of today, so that could change if there's an FBI indictment or something, but so far it's not looking good.
Mm-hmm. And, I think a lot of these things, too, they're assuming that Hillary's going to get these traditional voters, and they have to assume a turnout. And I just don't see a lot of Democrats turning out for Hillary either. So I think they might be making some broad-based assumptions on who will turn out for Hillary.
There was an exit poll out of, I think it was West Virginia, that I think it was half of Bernie Sanders supporters would either vote for Trump or not vote at all if Hillary was the nominee. So, I mean, maybe they're just saying that out of anger, but I do hope they follow through on that.
Well, it was the same number as far as the Republicans who would not vote if Trump was the nominee. So I think they're cancel each other out effect. When I looked into it, I think it was 20% of Sanders supporters would vote for Trump, and 14% of Trump supporters would vote for Hillary. Percentage point discrepancy, but it does offset it.
What do you think about that, Grant? What do you think about Trump? He's really literally trying to win over Bernie voters. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think he should be maybe more concerned about the conservative base of the party, or do you think he should just try to go after all these disenfranchised and disaffected voters?
Well, I mean, he's a leftist, so he'll fit perfectly right in with them, and he'll bring up fair trade, and what else did he want to do? Raise the minimum wage, print our way out of debt. He's halfway there.
Well, Grant, free trade has worked very well in North Korea and in Venezuela. It's really done a lot of good there.
Yeah.
So it seems to be creating a ton of wealth. It worked well in the USSR.
And every country that stopped doing that somehow began to flourish, but let's ignore that.
Well, don't you think that you should actually, if you have a grocery store that's next to you and it's cheaper than the other grocery store, that you should go to the one that costs more money, and that would probably help you, right? if you pay more for the.
Right, because I'd have a higher income because people were employed there.
Yeah, no, that's would help you.
Yeah.
That's true.
No,
So
I was thinking about this today. I was sitting in a meeting today at work, and you said earlier, I work in manufacturing, and we're sitting there doing sort of like make-buy analysis. Like, do we want to make this in-house, or do we want to send it outside? And we ended up with this one big package of parts, and we sent them overseas to China. Imagine that. An American manufacturing company consciously making the decision to send work overseas because it's less expensive, and we can use those resources left over from that, whether it's capital or machine capacity, to do other things that are more productive.
How would they know to send it there? I mean, what did they just say? Oh, let's just send this over there to make Americans mad, or so? How did they know to send? Is it like prices or something?
Oh, it's all prices. Oh yeah,
Whoa.
and the ship. Yeah, like wow, you go where things are cheaper. Like wow, like what it came down to was we could either make it in house for let's say $100, send it down the street for $80, or send it overseas for like $40.
Sounds like your company sucks.
What?
Nothing.
And what we already have like a shipping container that's basically leased that goes back from China to the U.S. And like Kevin did the post in UA about shipping containers, and of course, I mean, there's room on the container for these little box of parts that we're buying. So we just throw it on there. Shipping cost is not even a factor, and we're getting parts delivered in time. So why wouldn't we do it?
Gosh. What chance do we have of winning any arguments, Kevin? I'm going to ask you this one, and Matt too. I don't know how many times we've done posts on minimum wage, and it's a simple kind of concept that if you increase the cost of labor, and you increase the price of labor per se, that you're going to get less demand for it. I mean, this is the law of demand. It's a very simple thing. If we can't win that argument, I mean, what hope do we have? I mean, I was talking to my economics professor today at graduation, and she was saying, what hope do we have if we can't even get these simple economic propositions across? I mean, we see this all the time. Is it hopeless, Kevin?
Your mic, by the way, is kind of staticky.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. That's what I run into every day on Unbiased America. Is I mean, we have a really good following, a lot of very smart people on there, but there are certain subjects that people just don't understand. And minimum wage is one of them. It seems like it's just like you said, the easiest thing to explain. If you're in a store and there's not many people coming in, do you suddenly increase your prices to make more money? No, of course not. And the same thing goes for how people are going to compensate for their employees now making $15 an hour. They're going to raise prices if they can. So there's just so many ways you can try to explain it to people. But I forget who it was. It might have been somebody on our show last week who said that there's only so much you can do, and some people just set their minds. And I think we're at the point right now where the nation has two sides, and we're listening in echo chambers, and we don't hear the other side. I mean, maybe it's a good time to tell people that we're rolling out our Unbiased America site, because hopefully that's the type of thing that we're going to bring in people of other what's that?
Is that the one at unbiasedamerica.com?
Yes, unbiasedamerica.com.
Yes. Okay.
That's what we're rolling out right now. So let's make sure we talk about that at some point. But yeah, I think people need to start listening to the other sides, and I say that knowing that the people ideologically who are my opponents are saying a lot of things that are just fallacies. But I'd still want to hear them, and I'd like them to listen to our point of view too.
Yeah. I mean, I think we once posted a quote on UA. It was something like, people only agree with you if they already agreed with you.
Yes. Frank Zappa
Yeah, I think
said
that's
that.
exactly what happens. So.
Yeah, it's absolutely true, and it's a sad, and that's the reason I think that you have so many people supporting somebody like Sanders, who anybody with a modicum of understanding of economics or of history even would tell you that this guy is nuts, and and yet you have so many people coming out to vote for him, to support him, and they just because they don't know the other side. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
They don't hear the other side.
Raised red lines in Cuba. I mean, Like, how do you defend that?
There's nothing wrong because
I
if you're
remember-
waiting, wait, let me give the
Sorry,
argument.
yeah, you go.
Listen, people are waiting in the line and they're meeting each other. They're talking politics. This is how civil discourse works. They're discussing what gender they might prefer to be. Perhaps they're transgendering. Perhaps they want to marry their pet. Look, this is how political discourse gets done. Now you can continue. Try to refute that, pal.
I can't. I'm done.
And
You
if
got
you're
me.
and then if you're talking and you're discussing these pertinent issues, you don't feel the hunger pains as much.
Mm.
The sense of community is just
Didn't
so
you,
overwhelming that you don't stop feeling the hunger pains.
Yeah.
Didn't you also find some quote from Sanders where he argued that we should abolish private charity? Was that you?
Oh yeah, he said he
What a fucking
wants to get rid of all of it. It's a job of government.
Yeah.
Get rid of the private. You can't help anybody. We'll help you by making sure you're impoverished and you vote for more. You vote for
And,
government.
You know, his fans, the same people outraged at those cities that don't want you to feed homeless people.
Yeah. You got to have a lot of government regulations for that
Idiots.
because they might get sick. You see, but
They
being
get sick.
emaciated is healthy. Being malnourished, that's healthy.
Hey, let me guys ask. This is just off the top of my head, but let me guys ask you guys a question on an issue that has become very popular amongst socialists and other countries and so forth. I know France and I think maybe Spain just enacted legislation that basically says you can't throw away food, even if it's expired, and that you have to keep. I don't know if it's keep selling it or give it away, or I'm not sure what the exact laws are in each case. But is there a counter argument to that?
Absolutely. What are the costs of keeping it? The inventory costs of keeping it. What are the costs of getting rid of it? It's that they would be less inclined to buy as much goods, at one time. So there might be shortages of people ordering. Let's say you're out ordering food, they might not order as much stuff as they did prior because they don't want to. It's almost like labor laws where you make firing people so expensive that you actually hire less labor. The same would be for goods, that they would actually incentivize people purchasing less goods, or less goods that are actually optimal because they're worried about the costs of maintaining it, shipping it, or doing whatever they have to do.
What about the argument? What about the argument that the food's not really? It's still edible. The expiration date has nothing to do with whether or not you can't eat it anymore.
Yeah, so who decides if they want to eat it or not? I guess Uncle Sam. What do you think, Grant?
Well, so I did a post about this on at WAC on a while ago because France does have that law, and it was an Occupy Democrats meme saying America should follow Mueller's. But basically, it works like this in France: is you have to donate it to a government organization that in turn gives it to homeless people.
At what cost?
What's the cost of administering that? It would be so much
guess what happened?
Just to give the goddamn money to the poor people.
Guess what they grocers started doing? They stopped carrying as much inventory.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because the reason they carry excess inventory is because it's cheaper for them to carry the inventory and then just toss it than have to go through the process of filling out all the paperwork and blah, blah, blah. And
it hurts to be right, Kevin.
Basically going to the DMV to get rid of your trash. So they stopped carrying as much inventory. And now, whenever you go into a grocery store in France, this is based off of a sort of anecdotal evidence that was in an article in one of their local papers, I guess. They will run out of it. Like if you go to the grocery store to get eggs or like milk or something, by the end of the day, it's all gone. So an hour before closing, you can't get milk because everyone bought it all.
I love unintended consequences. It is the greatest thing ever is when people come up with a program or an idea or legislation, and then it just backfires and blows up all over the place. I seriously, maybe I just had that. Maybe I'm just a little bit evil, but I love unintended consequences.
Kevin, even worse consequence was some stores voluntarily gave to charity, gave their leftovers to charity, but now they are mandated to give it to this government organization, so they give half to charity and throw the other half away. But now they're mandated to give 100% of it to charity or to the government, so they're just like, okay, we'll just carry less inventory then.
Yeah.
I was going to say, though, I mean, if every single supermarket has to follow this law, the enforcement costs of monitoring that must be insane. Like, it would probably be so expensive if you just gave it up, if you just bought food with that money and gave it to poor people, it would be more efficient. Like, how do you monitor who's doing it or
They
not?
never do cost-benefit analysis because they just don't care. Because, if the government's perceived as doing something that helps the poor, that this government is this benevolent actor, and you should vote for more of it. I mean, they never ask what the costs are. You know what I mean? The only time they care about costs is if it's something that where the benefits outweigh the costs. They just don't like it, so they'll just bring up the cost of it. Pollution. Oh my God, there's all this pollution. They don't talk about, well, what's the cost benefit of the pollution? Do the benefits outweigh the costs? I mean, there's got to be some pollution, and how harmful is that pollution to the environment? I think it's like, liberals, whenever they like something, there's only benefits and no costs, and when they hate something, there's only costs and no benefits. I mean, this is the message that they always portray, and it's never an economic one. It's always one that, we need to feed the poor. Well, who disagrees with that? Everyone would agree with that. I would agree with that, and
No,
they think
I don't agree with that.
but it's just, let's force restaurants instead of throwing the food out to give it to the poor. Well, you don't understand it. It creates incentives for people to act, that people act on the margins. And these are liberal businesses and conservative businesses. So I just don't understand it. And Kevin, a lot of this stuff goes through the media, the intelligentsia, intellectuals perpetuate this stuff, and it's not really people on the ground. It's not really everyday Main Street people. And it's, this Democrat Party, we fight for the common guy. Well, a lot of these issues, even the most Democrat supporting mainstream guy isn't really thinking about a lot of these things.
No, they're ideas. They're ideas that come up into some politician's head as a way of getting more votes.
Okay.
And they put it through their staff, and the staff decides whether or not it's going to get more votes. They don't care how much it costs. They don't even care if it works. Their cost-benefit analysis is all about getting votes. It's about using capital, using a political capital, and how much that's their cost, is the political capital, and the benefit is how many votes they derive from it.
So it's all public choice theory. It's saying, look, I'm just concerned about re-election. I don't care what I have to do to get re-elected. If I need to make a larger a voting block or constituency that's dependent on my seat, that's what I'm going to do. So they'll vote for me again, and I can just give them more of other people's stuff.
Right, and they'll happily, if on the other hand the idea comes from the public, if it comes from some sort of a movement, they'll happily comply with that too, as long as it brings them votes. Again, they don't care if it works or not. Occupy Wall Street is a big movement. I mean, a lot of the Democrats, played into a lot of espouse a lot of the same policies that Occupy Wall Street is espousing now. I mean, here's the lesson in this is, if you want good policies, you have to make sure that the policy works. You can't leave it up to politicians, because they're not going to care if it works or not. You have to do the due diligence, and not enough people have the time or inclination to do it.
Hello, Lauren.
Hey, guys.
Can you hear me?
It worked.
All right, everybody, we have Lauren Southern here from the Rebel Media.
Unexpected guest.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome to Unbiased America Live. That's Grant Phillips, who looks like the career criminal, all the way to the left with the backwards hat and his white T-shirt.
What's with the judgments? All right.
Looks like you got some sauce stains on your shirt there. We also have, Kevin's right next to you. He has a shark shirt on. It looks like he made that. Matt Palumbo and myself, Will Riccadella. We usually have these nice little decals that come up on our screen, but they're not working because Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts is throwing a fit. Yes, nice to meet you. So you live in Canada, correct?
Yeah, Vancouver area.
Is your Libertarian Party as dysfunctional as ours?
Of course it is. I mean, it's a Libertarian Party. They love their bookworm ideologue debates all day.
I already like you, Lauren.
Right, libertarians definitely get along.
Okay. Do they have?
Lauren,
do you have to
like having a female prime minister?
Sorry. Didn't hear
I said,
that.
what is it like having a female prime minister?
A female prime minister. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Did you see what happened in our parliament today? Did any of you see what happened?
No, I didn't.
Oh, our female prime minister, feminist prime minister, actually Lewandowski'd a NDP female member of parliament elbowed her into a desk while grabbing a conservative MP because he had a bit of a fit on the floor about people protesting something he was trying to pass. Literally did the gayest walk over to them and apparently reportedly yelled, "Get the fuck out of my way," and grabbed this guy on the floor, and everyone is freaking out about it on Twitter. It's quite hilarious.
God, you Canadians, you really get all riled up, very violent up there. But do you have to be part of?
He has the temperament to be a prime minister.
To be part of the Libertarian Party up there, do you have to sign a NAP pledge?
Let me think. I don't think I did sign a NAP pledge, but I know you guys do, which is I don't agree with, to be honest.
Actually, they changed the
None of us do.
standards. They changed the standards. You have to get a NAP tattoo now if you want to be part of the Libertarian Party.
We promise it's not a cult. We promise.
And if you haven't read Man, Economy, and State, and you're able to memorize each of the words, like Thomas Aquinas memorized the Holy Bible, they'll throw you out. And you're not allowed back.
But they embrace all views otherwise.
Yeah.
But tell our audience a little bit about yourself, Lauren, for those who might not know you.
Oh, wait, okay, I'm curious. Oh, a little bit about myself. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do the introduction first. Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm a Canadian. I'm a libertarian, although some hardline libertarians do say that's questionable because I have a lot of compromise lately with my open border or with being closed borders. I contribute for the Rebel Media. I've also done a bit of writing for Spiked Online and also the Libertarian Republic, which is run by Austin Peterson, one of the candidates for Libertarian Party right now. I believe he is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I basically do a lot of trolling feminists and writing about Canadian politics.
Let me get you on the closed borders thing. Do you mean secured borders, or do you mean like no immigration, or you mean you want to know who's coming into your country?
Secured
okay,
borders.
Big difference.
Although, is anyone in the call? Is the guy the admin of being classically liberal that's pissed at me in this call right now?
Oh, is that?
No, it's Corey.
That's Corey.
No,
yeah,
he's actually pissed at you.
Him and I argue on immigration all the time, but
Yeah,
he's young and he's very libertarian, and you got to stick with a libertarian thing if you stray from it, But that's okay. There's good arguments.
That's the problem. You got a lot of ideologues in the Libertarian Party. As much as I do appreciate them and think they have very good arguments, you've got a lot of ideologues in the party that can't take off their ideological lens. They can't observe things without their ideological lens and see that there are logical as well as libertarian solutions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because if you talk about your sovereign borders and then you talk about your property, they're all about those property borders. But if you talk about the sovereignty of your state and protecting who comes into your sovereign territory, somehow that's not the same thing. It's inhumane.
Well, the problem isn't even the problem is entirely democracy. You can't have open borders and also have a democracy where you can import voters, which is literally what the Democrats are doing. They're importing voters for big government as well as a welfare state, which is actually the bigger issue at the moment. But you're importing government-defended individuals and importing voters. So even if you have democracy with a libertarian government, I don't think you could have open borders, which is why I'm not a big fan of Gary Johnson, who's likely going to be the Libertarian Party nominee, because he's for open borders.
Right, and you have to have a breakdown of the rule of law, and then you have to have, open borders, and that's precisely what's happened. We no longer have a rule of law, and we do have almost majority rule here. It seems that property rights have gone out the window, and, we demonize the rich. Did you have I think. What's that, Matt?
So Mexico last year deported more people than we did.
Oh yeah, if you're American, you can't buy property
that's very
there.
Bigoted.
You should see their immigration law. You should see what they do to Guatemalans. Yeah. You had a question for us, I think, Lauren.
Oh, I was just going to ask about if the admin Corey was in the call, but I guess it's not. That's a he needs to
hanging out with friends
post. He needs to go debate Stephen Molyneux or Stefan Molyneux. He's got very good libertarian plus closed border arguments.
Okay, so does Hans Hermann Hoppe.
What's the Libertarian Party situation like up there in Canada now?
Well, I mean, there's no election going on right now, so I haven't been keeping up with it so closely. We had the election earlier, which I did run for. I ran as a Libertarian MP, which, to be honest, I don't know if that was a great decision. I'm kind of leaning more towards pragmatic voting now than purist voting, because I was a bit too purist, and we had a landslide for the Liberals, of course, and But anyways, our Libertarian Party, it's fairly similar to the American one, but a little more lefty. We've got a lot of left-wing libertarians in the party, so there's always the debate. I don't know, did you guys read at all about how I was kicked out of the party for being anti-feminist and whatnot? And
Yeah, I heard snippets
I
of
remember
that.
reading it a while ago.
Yeah.
I didn't, but
Which
that's
is
awesome.
ridiculous. It is awesome.
Explain what happened with that. What were your anti-feminist comments?
do you remember me going and trolling the slut walk?
I have no
There is
idea
the
what
rape
that
culture
is.
in- No, I went
Wait.
to the slut walk with a sign that said there is
She
no rape
she went to a slut walk with Milo Yiannopoulos, and they held up signs saying like rape culture is just like Harry Potter, both myths, and they
What
triggered
is-
quite a number of people.
What is a slut walk? Are you kidding me?
Oh, a slut walk
It's
is
where
where...
people you never want to fuck all go.
Maddie, let her answer the question.
Sorry.
What is
I've got
what
my-
is this thing?
I'll make a video soon. A slut walk is where women go and they wear no clothes out in public and dress like sluts to protest rape culture.
Oh,
And they say-
Halloween.
and they-
What
yeah,
did I-
And will.
and they say, still not asking for it.
So you meant to say Halloween. We have that here too. It's October 31st.
Anyways, I went
And
there
will
with
they
the sign
all look like?
rape culture in the West, and I basically argued that it's extremely almost, I don't want to say offensive because I hate saying things are offensive, but it is trivializing to real rape cultures where women are beaten to death for the crime
Yeah.
of being raped, to say that we live in a rape culture here where it is literally talked about and combated every day in every aspect of our politics, education.
Exactly.
Our whole culture is anti-rape. There's nothing
Mhm.
it's promoting rape about our culture at all, and it's ridiculous to say that we live in a rape culture. So I obviously went there, challenged these women, and the Libertarian Party, a few people that were more on the left-wing side of the Libertarian Party, got me kicked out, saying it was sexist, offensive.
Very
all this-
open-minded. That's a very open-minded party. No groupthink going on
As
there.
a feminist might say, I think it's very problematic.
Did
Oh,
you?
wait,
Did
guys
was
are
it? Did
cutting
you?
out. There we go.
Okay, we got
Did I
you.
what?
I don't know. I thought that Maddie said something about problematic, but I think he used
Anyways.
another word in there. I missed it.
No,
I
did
couldn't
use
hear him.
problematic.
Yeah,
But
feminism.
It's a feminist word.
And you know what? Yeah, that was basically an issue over free speech because there are a bunch of people that were also in the party that kind of believed in a lot of the kind of Alex Jones stuff about 9/11 and chemtrails and stuff too. So it got into a debate like, are we allowed to have this speech in the party? And obviously, I support people are allowed to believe what they want, especially when those views don't affect the policy that they're making. Our policy is small government, right? So you're not going to have people enforcing their feminist values into their government, right? Or their non-feminist values. It's just reduce the state.
So would you consider yourself like a conservatarian?
I'd consider myself mostly libertarian, but the thing is, I believe there are prerequisites to preserving a free state. I think you have to have borders. I'm a libertarian because I believe in small government, but the government necessary to preserve freedom, which means that there are some things that will break the NAP in order to conserve freedom, which is not why I'm not a full-on anarchist, because I don't think we can have no borders and conserve a free country. I don't think we can have no army and conserve a free country. I just don't think that's possible when your country is going to be competing with other global superpowers that have statewide power, a government power. Individuals can't compete with government powers that can come in, invade, conquer their lands, change it into a different government, create their own government there. You still have to have a very, very small, limited government that only serves the function of a night watchman state to preserve the maximum freedoms possible. Unfortunately, that does mean very, very small taxes in order to preserve a border and a small army to defend you, but literally nothing else, completely against welfare, completely against any, even though I'm conservative in my own life, completely against having things like transgender bathroom laws, those kind of things. I'm against having, like, banning gay marriage, banning marijuana, that kind of stuff. I'm like 99% libertarian. It's just I believe we need a very, very small bit of functioning government to preserve that freedom and preserve it from other states that don't want us to have freedom.
Okay, I would call you a statist, but I'm sure that's pretty played out. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of
To prevent reasonable debate. within the party is just calling people statist.
Mm-hmm.
I find the libertarian movement, they just say statist and everything's shut down. It's like saying sexist, misogynist, or racist now. It's just become
Exactly. It's
libertarian.
it's the 16th century version of heretic. I think Matt gets called a statist kind of all the time, don't you, Matty? How often do you get called a statist?
It's cock 'em all of them.
Yeah, what is this? Can you explain to me, Matty, being a youngster, this cuck thing? What the hell is that all about?
It's conservatives who aren't racist enough for the alt-right.
What is that? Can they please stop saying? It's really embarrassing when they say this stuff. Can you use regular words? I don't get it.
I do say it honestly here and there, but not as much as a lot of these losers do.
Well, do you know how it's used to describe people who unnecessarily appeal to political correctness? So you're kind of cucked if you're using kid gloves when dealing with different races or like the LGBTQ group. Like, I'm going to pander to blacks. I'm going to pander to transgender. I'm going to pander to women.
Yeah.
You're being a cock is what the term is, and you get.
I do agree with you in that regard.
So postmodernist.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's more racist than that. I mean, the way I've heard it being used is essentially the reason you're a cuck is because you're supporting a different race over your own. I mean, that's the way I've generally heard it being used before.
The thing is, it's used by white nationalist alt-right aspects in that sense, but the word is it's so much more versatile than just that, and it's used by much more people than, like, Milo Yiannopoulos uses it all the time, for example. He's not a white nationalist in any sense.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting, though, is that in academia, and I've seen it firsthand many times, is that you have this movement against literally white males. I mean, they make this out. I've been sat through these classes, and I'm literally like, I have my head in my hands, and I'm trying not to say anything, and they're saying, it's the white male capitalists that actually subjugate minorities and steal their labor. And it's the white male. We need to tear down this white male social construct in the working class.
In general, too. But
right.
So it's all males that they want to tear down, and all white people as well. I mean, I sit in a class being taught about my white privilege all day.
Right.
Well, they don't have any understanding of complexity in individuals. If you believe an entire race is privileged, if you blame an entire race for the problems of the world, you have no. It's very childish, and it lacks understanding of complexity in individuals. I know they always complain, oh, natives had their land stolen. Well, my family had their land stolen too. Like in Denmark, they had their land stolen. Their trucking company. Every race has been enslaved. There are individuals that have grown up in poor homes that are of every race, every gender, every sexuality. Cis people can grow up getting bullied too. I hate using that word. Women can grow up, or men can grow up being patronized and bullied as well. White people can be beaten as kids and grow.
Yep.
But
I understand though. Go ahead, Matt.
The equation power plus prejudice? I mean, it is 2016.
Yes. I mean, you look at textbooks today. I did a video on a textbook that is mandated for grade 10s here in Canada, and they've got a little scale that shows privilege versus oppression, and on the privilege side it's got white, male, cisgender, and that's literally a textbook that is being given out to children.
That's amazing.
I saw this quote the other day. This guy was like, I miss when thin privilege was called restraint.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm not surprised by the counter movement or what's perceived as this white nationalist movement. I think it's more reactionary to the left's war on, white people and white males and all this other crap. I just don't think it's really necessary, if we have the facts on our side, that we should use debate rather than a counter movement that seems to do the exact same thing. It seems to be. Go ahead.
Yeah. I have no problem with people like the identitarian movement and stuff that are just saying you have native here in Canada that have a lot of native cultural events, are reconnecting with their culture and learning their foods, traditions, all these different things, and it's completely based on their blood and their race and everything. And then you have identitarians that come out and say, why can't Europeans do that as well? And why is it deemed racist when Europeans do that? right?
Right.
And I have no problem. And a lot of them are called white nationalists, but as long as you want the right for everyone to connect to their culture, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right. Look, I don't know what component of it's necessarily racist. I'm saying that in the '60s you had this counter movement, the Black Power movement that was led by Malcolm X. I don't necessarily think they were racist. I think they were a reaction to this to the Jim Crow laws and white people literally keeping them down. I kind of see it as like the exact inverse.
I
You
mean,
know,
but
like that you have.
you have people that get they'll get extremist about it because of how, I guess, literally oppressed at that time. They were not microaggression oppressed. They actually had laws.
Oh
And now we
yeah,
have laws
it's horrible.
that are forcing people to not hire very capable white men. So if there's any systemic oppression, it is against white males who are not hired for jobs. We do have laws against them, which makes sense why they're so frustrated. But Malcolm X, he preached his excitement when white people died on.
No, for sure. There was elements
So
of it.
he was definitely like the racist black nationalist kind of guy. I mean, I don't
No.
have a problem with people.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fully argue with that, but I mean he had cause for that. If you look at what was going on
It
in
caused
the
to be
South,
angry.
cause to be he was absolutely angry. Yeah, and I don't think he was a good leader. Don't get me wrong here. I'm just saying that it was that he counteracted that kind of I don't want to say necessarily white power, but that white kind of the white establishment. Martin Luther King Jr. was a far better leader who understood civil rights, who understood the Constitution, who understood the religious aspect of it. And Malcolm X was kind of this reaction to this anti-black sentiment for so many years. And I kind of see that, in academia and intellectuals and in the media, you have this anti-white attitude, and sometimes it's implicit. In academia, it's explicit, and you have these people that are really tired of being called racists and bigots. And that's kind of the movement towards Trump, and I think some are just taking it too far, if that makes sense. I understand that I get called that all the time, but the thing is, I would never stoop to a level where I have to be some white power. I want to deconstruct all that, this white, black, orange, blue thing. I think that's more libertarian, is to deconstruct it.
This is the issue that comes about, right? Is like, why can't we just deconstruct things logically? Why can't we just show them the logical reason why this is a bad idea? But so many people function by emotion and not logic, and that's why you're having a lot of why you have more populist movements win, because people don't read, people don't understand logical debate, people don't understand how to argue properly, and it's just completely based on emotion. And you know what? This is the problem that libertarians are always going to have, is that libertarians are always going to be less than 1% of the population, because it is literally like a mutated gene that they have that makes them not more based on emotion. I'm guessing most libertarians have very low EQs and probably a little bit above average.
Well, you've met us, so you know it's a
EQ
fact.
part is what makes them so unrelatable to other people. And I've talked to I remember I was at a speech by Walter Block. I'm sure a lot of you guys know who he is. And I asked him, I'm like, so what can libertarianism do to win? And he sits there and he laughs. He's like, we can't, because we will never be more than a very small part of the population, because it's not based on emotions, right?
Right.
I'm doing this because I believe in it, and it's fun to compete against the current ideas we have now, but it's very likely that we won't, in a democracy, we're not going to get a libertarian government. That's just the reality. We can try to create smaller governments, but this notion that the Libertarian Party will ever win is complete nonsense. It's complete nonsense.
Hey, Maddie,
sorry to
what's up?
with that.
what do you think about the kind of that alt-right movement do you think that that's like a populist type of movement, and do you see it as a positive force in politics, or do you see it as
I agree with them to some extent. Like, I do think we're way too sensitive on a lot of racial issues. Like, and even going back to like when Charles Murray published The Bell Curve, or I don't know if you followed when John Derbyshire got fired from National Review, but there's a lot of things where people, I think, are too sensitive on to just talk about certain racial issues. So, I mean, I'll agree with them on that. I do think we should have more freedom to talk about these things. But so I started following a lot of like alt-right people on Twitter, and it just seems like there's a lot of anti-Semitism I've noticed. So I'm definitely like, I wouldn't consider myself part of it at all. I mean, I agree with small bits of it, but I not as a whole.
Kevin, we talked about this before. We talked about it on the show. Like what Lauren said is that these people aren't thinking logically, and we brought this up about minimum wage. That they don't care about logical arguments. They care about emotion. We said many times on this show that we need a conservative populist. But do you see this populist movement, this alt-right movement, as a positive force in politics? That it's going to help get some sort of a more free market, more liberty-based society. Do you see that happening?
No, populist movements succeed because they play off of people's conceptions, and many people have misconceptions. I mean, the populace is not necessarily educated enough to be able to, and it sounds like I'm talking down to people here, but it's true. A populist movement plays to what the majority believes is true, and in many cases the majority is wrong. And but that's how the populist gets votes. So I don't think there's ever really, maybe the conservatives could have a good populist at some point, but I don't think libertarians are going to have a populist. Although, if there ever was a so-called libertarian populist, Ron Paul came close, I guess, because he's the one who brought a lot of people into the movement. And but then again, he's still only a couple percent of the vote in America. So. I'm not sure populism will ever be a valuable movement for any ideology other than the one that takes power and the one that claims power for itself.
Well, that's why the winning ones are usually populist. The Democrats will typically they typically win because they have no real platform. They have no real logical platform. They just change to whatever the people want most at the time. Mm-hmm. And it's a scary thing because, if it suddenly came back around, they supported slavery. It was the Republicans that got rid of slavery. If it came around and suddenly the majority of people decided that they the majority of people decided that they hated Asians, white people, whatever, then the Democrats would be like, you know what, so do we. Yeah. Look at them. They're going all over the feminist wage gap thing. Their leader, woman, purposely, strategically, so that they can pull the woman card, the vagina card. I'm a woman, because they're going with what's popular in the culture. And
right. I mean, it's Hillary's platform.
One day the things that people that are voting for Hillary deem bigoted today will be popular things in the future, and the Democrats will likely support them because they are democratic. They like what the majority think. They don't have morals. They don't have values. They have democracy.
Yeah, so essentially Hillary Clinton's entire platform is just, I'm a woman. I mean, that's pretty much it.
She's changed it every year based on what the population likes. That's the Democrats. I mean, I can't say the conservatives in the States have really conserved anything at all either. I mean, they don't have much. They're basically 20 years behind the Democrats typically. But at least you can't say there's no difference between the parties either, though, because the Republicans do want less of a large government than the Democrats, although they both still are rather large governments.
They're a fairly progressive party here, man. They do little to use the Constitution to help limit government. They surrender it most times to the opposing party. It's actually pretty sad. I mean, if you look at Obamacare and what it's done to people, just defund it. That's how you get rid of it. You don't need to vote for it. You defund it. That's why you have the power of the purse, and they run on that, and then they don't do it. And that's what happens, and we get this sentiment. We get these people, and they're ticked off, and I don't blame them. In 2014, they all ran on this platform of, we're going to get rid of Obamacare, we're going to defund Obamacare, and they get in there and they do absolutely nothing, and they say, we can't do anything, which is a lie. You have both the Senate and the House defund the thing. It's a horrible law. I just don't understand why they don't have the guts to do it. You don't like the president.
That's why so many people are moving to Trump, because you have these Republicans, then they'll come in and they'll say, we're going to do this,
exactly.
and the other, and then they do absolutely nothing, right? So even though people might not totally agree with Trump and think his policies are ridiculous, I believe Mike Cernovich said this, he's doing an anchor where he's throwing it out super far, the idea, so that when he gets into office, he can pull it back a bit and be at the position that people want to be at. Just controlled immigration, not necessarily banning everybody. Well, although I would like that. I really love borders. But I think that he will get less extreme on a lot of his views when he goes in office. But because he's gone so extreme, he's less likely to just go be moderate and do absolutely nothing. And that's why people are moving towards Trump. Libertarians as well are moving towards Trump because they're seeing kind of the hopelessness of a Libertarian Party ever winning. And I mean, I have a lot of reservations about it, but I think immigration is the biggest issue for Libertarians right now because it's the one thing that's expanding large government voters and the welfare state. So, I mean, you can be a purist or you can be a pragmatist, and that's really going to be a book club debate for a while now until the election.
Do you think Trump has a chance to win in the States?
I think he has a chance. Maybe not. I think Hillary has more chance, unfortunately. But, I mean, the polls have surprised us. We had people voting saying that Trump wouldn't even win the candidacy at all, and he had, like, no chance at all. And he won, so he keeps surprising us. I don't know, but if Trump gets in office and he makes a change, it's going to be up in the air, but I think he'd be significantly better than Hillary. I don't necessarily trust him to keep all of his promises, but I think that he's on.
All right. That makes Kevin happy. Kevin's sorry.
Supports Trump.
Kevin's a Trump guy. Yeah.
If you can control your borders and stop mass immigration, and that is the first. There are prerequisites to getting a smaller government. It's like if you want to get rid of big government, you have to stop the inflow of big government voters first. I mean, it's common sense. It's common sense, and I cannot comprehend all these libertarians that are like, you know what? We need to open the border. The first thing we do when we get in office, not that they're ever going to get in office, but it's like it's absolute insanity. You're just going to be importing your doom. A bunch of people that are going to vote for a larger government because if you have no attachment to the culture, if you have no attachment to or any of the political values, which a lot of people don't, they don't think too much about politics, what you're going to want is free stuff. Hell, I don't care about anyone else. I want free stuff, right? I
like
care
free
about
stuff.
What happens to this country in the future, the debt for other people. I want free stuff now. A lot of people don't have that self-control.
I want a free wall is what I want.
Care for the future of people. Or for if they don't care about the country at all. I want free stuff, right? And they're going to vote for free stuff.
Big free wall, and I want the Mexicans to pay for it.
Beautiful wall.
I don't know
Kevin
if you get the Mexicans to pay for it, but it's pretty damn funny.
I want a wall. I want a wall. I want Canada to pay for that Mexican wall.
Hey, look, Canadians come here. They get deported.
If Hillary gets elected, Canada's going to need to build the wall to keep us out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? I want to go because Justin Trudeau's a lot better.
We're so screwed. Like our debt, I don't know. It's a situation.
Our debt's terrible. And if we have bad debt, that's not good for Canada either.
But if I just believe what I learned in university, Keynesian economics, it'll all be okay. We can just keep spending money.
Hey, you got universal health care. You have universal health care. You guys got a great. It must be wonderful that you don't have to pay for military.
Right.
Yeah, I really
hope Keynesian economics are accurate, even though I know they're not. I really hope they are because it's nice being able to infinitely spend money with no consequences.
I hear that actually, Lauren. I want you to clear something up for me. I hear that it's free for healthcare up there in Canada. Are doctors dying in the streets from not being paid, or?
Shut up.
Don't even start with me. Oh, our healthcare is so bad. It's so bad. People literally just don't get, like, they'll be in 10-year waiting lines to get surgery, and they're like, I'll die instead. I'll just die.
But that doesn't cost. You see, that's not a cost. You see, that's not a price to pay. It's just price is just money. That's on the, it's waiting isn't an actual cost. Or dying while you wait. That's not a cost. No.
That's literally what they do. They're like, if we make the waits long enough, we won't have to pay for anything because they'll just die. And I'm laughing right now, but there have actually been some like really, really sad, sick stories that are like my grandpa died because he couldn't get the treatment he wanted. There was too much of a wait list for his cancer treatment. And if we were in the States and we could have, if we were in the States and we had all the money that we spent on our healthcare taxes, he could have gotten the treatment he needed.
Where are people going to go now?
Yeah, my dad was.
And private healthcare is illegal in Canada.
His knees don't work at all, and he's been in a wait list for like 6 years, and he just gave up. He just canceled it. It's like they just kept extending it. You can't even get the surgeries that you need here. And our walk-in clinics they give you like 2 seconds of their time, and they're wrong 90% of the time with their diagnosis.
And
so
isn't this what Bernie wants?
Yeah.
Isn't this what Bernie wants? He doesn't want a private-public system. He wants a Canadian-type system where, like Maddie just said, private healthcare is outlawed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Canada is the only country with socialized medicine that doesn't allow private insurance to exist alongside it. Like, at least in France, I think 90% are buying private insurance.
The places where our politicians go, they go to private healthcare. But it's so funny. You had Stephen Crowder. He did a video on our healthcare, and he was just trying to get a blood test and get a family doctor. They couldn't do it. They're like, the wait for a family doctor is like 3 years. Oh no, my thing's powering off. Okay.
That's all right. We actually our showtime is up, but you got to come back again sometime.
Okay. My thing's powering
Hey, you want
off.
to come on next week?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Yay.
We'll get you all set. We'll get you all set up for next week. And everybody follow Unbiased America. Check out unbiasedamerica.com. There's some really good stuff there. Lauren, you're at the Rebel Media, correct? I don't think she's with us anymore. But it's the rebelmedia.com. Is that right, Maddie?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, the rebelmedia.com. You can check her stuff out there. You can check Maddie's out at unbiasedamerica.com. And
Also, I'll be on Red Eye on the Fox News channel June 8th.
And he'll be
3
on
a.m.
Red Eye
Stay up.
on the Fox News channel June 8th, 12 a.m.
3 a.m.
What is it?
Eastern time. It's 3
Oh, okay.
a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, here it's on at
Yeah.
12 a.m. So I might not stay up to watch it.
All right.
But
Can we talk about the website for a second, because I promoted this show as being, we're going to announce our new website.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
You know, watching this.
Yeah. So the new website is unbiasedamerica.com. We're going to have our archives. If you guys all the time I got people asking me, remember that thing you wrote blah 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 10 years ago, whatever.
It was terrible.
Yes. If you eventually we're going to have all the archives on there. We're uploading them as we speak, and people can come and get our archives. And the newest content will be available on unbiasedamerica.com. So we're opening that up, and we're going to start promoting that in the coming days.
All right, and it is a good site. It's it's really good because I'm on it. Kevin kind of gets in the way, but whatever. He has a shark shirt, so
it has its flaws.
It has. But thanks for watching. Check out the site. Check out Unbiased America. Check out Maddie's books, In Defense of Classical Liberalism and The Conscience of a Young Conservative, or it should better yet, The Conscience of a Young Statist. And tune in next week. We'll have Lauren Southern back. We'll have a better show and perhaps better equipment, so everybody's not getting cut out. And thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.